So I've just about run out of words for what it is that Foregate Whiskey Company is doing. Today we're taking a look at batch number 21. This is the Port Peri Peri. This is their 95.5 rye mash bill, finished in Australian Tawny Port Casks. How is this guy going to stack up to some of the prior releases? Only one way to find out. Let's do this. Hey guys, and welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me today. Greatly appreciate it. So like I had mentioned before, we're taking a look at batch number 21. This is the Port Peri Peri. This is going to be a 95.5 rye mash bill finished in Australian Tawny Port Casks. So if that kind of sounds a little bit familiar in terms of another brand that's done something finished in Tawny Port, we'll see how this one's gonna maybe stack up today. So some details on this one. So like I mentioned before, this is batch number 21. This is the Port Peri Peri, finished in Australian Tawny Port Casks, coming in at 112.2 proof, mash bill 95.5, pretty typical or standard MGP rye mash bill. It is age stated as a minimum of 4 years. So we've got a great age statement on a fantastic finished rye whiskey, and MSRP on this is coming in at right around that $200 price point. Let's take a look at the color on this guy. So again, as you'd expect, for it being finished in a Tawny Port cask, the influence is fairly heavy. You've got that rich, kind of dark, deep, rich, like mahogany kind of color on it. Move the whiskey around the glass a little bit. Great oils on the glass, love to see that. A lot of great things going for this whiskey so far, but let's go ahead and dive into it and we'll get into the nose. So right away, heavy raspberry and strawberry notes. It's very much like a strawberry and raspberry jam. And I'll say the influence so far immediately of that Australian Tawny Port is very heavy on this. Fantastic mint note. All the classic things of this blend are coming out. At 95.5 with that mint that's coming out, the Australian Tawny Port with those jammy raspberry, strawberry notes already kind of setting the tone. Great rye spice on this one as well. Those baking spices, there's something about a rich, like nutmeg note on this. This whiskey so far on the nose for me is something that is very Christmassy, meaning it's something that you want to almost enjoy around the holidays. If you could sit around a fire with some friends, maybe even a nice cigar, this would be a fantastic whiskey to just sit around a fire, enjoy a great cigar, enjoy some friends, family. It is really setting the tone in a very good way. You're even getting some of those like kind of rich, like maybe a milk chocolate note, some of those heavy like espresso kind of notes. Again, it's very traditional from the standpoint of what it is that Foregate does with their finishes. They're all incredibly rich, decadent. We're gonna find out here shortly what the palate has to offer, but so far the nose for me, incredible. I just wanna sit down and enjoy this whiskey around the holidays. If I can get a great cigar at the time, even better. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into the palate. Cheers, guys. So for me right away, there's this incredible, rich plum, baking spice, mint note. It's a very well done blend right off the get-go. Like I love the components of each one of those. Heavy dark fruit. Again, a little bit more of that plum. I don't always get plum in things, but this is something very specific to a plum note. Rich mint, great baking spice on this. The oak on this, I'll say, is fantastic. It's a sweet, rich oak, a little bit more along the lines of what you'd expect for or from like a rick house, something along those lines. Yeah, like I said before, the great baking spice, a lot of that really rich, sweet oak presence. It's just the right amount of oak. Not overdone, not underdone. It's so far a great blend. I think they've done a fantastic job so far with this blend. Yeah, slight touch of dryness, I'll say, on this one. But again, more fruits, more kind of like chocolate, more espresso. That tawny port is really introducing itself. And again, the nice part is they get quality barrels, which lends itself to not having to spend as much time in those finishing barrels. You pull out a lot of those great flavors in a shorter period of time, and this is a perfect example of that. This is just one of those whiskeys you want to sit down, take your time with, enjoy it with friends, family. For me, I'm looking forward to pairing this with a fantastic cigar and just taking my time, slowing things down. So if that's something of interest to you, this might be the whiskey for you. In addition to a little bit of that tartness, one of the things that comes across for me in this is there's this Pop-Tart note that I'm getting as well. It's more of like that raspberry or strawberry Pop-Tart with kind of like that vanilla frosting. So there's a little bit of a pastry note on this as well. That's not always something I'll say I get from a typical or standard 95.5, but there's this decadence, there's a richness that's all of this blend kind of put together that's working its way into that decadence kind of category. So definitely those pastry notes, you know, with a Pop-Tart, not to kind of diminish in terms of the quality of anything, but the combo of that, the pastry, the strawberry filling or raspberry filling, maybe some of that kind of vanilla frosting, all kind of combined, you know, with the espresso, the chocolate, all of those great, fantastic notes. This thing takes you on one heck of a journey, I'll say that. And maybe one of the final touches on this, on the kind of finish of this, there's this rich, like dark roast coffee. And that's one thing in a whiskey that when I get those dark, like rich kind of roasty notes, it's something I really enjoy. I think it adds to the overall complexity, and what this already has with the pastry, some of those like kind of dark fruits like the raspberry, strawberry, things along those lines. That combination for me is something I really appreciate in a whiskey or a finished whiskey. And this has just about all of that. So if you're a 95.5 rye mash bill fan, you enjoy a great tawny port finish, everything I've described, all of this in this package, fantastic blend. For me to date, probably one of my favorite whiskeys that Foregate Whiskey has done. There again is batch number 21, the Port Peri Peri. This again is a 95.5 rye mash bill finished in Australian Tawny Port Casks. So if you can find this incredible finished rye whiskey, period. Thank you so much for tuning in to another one of my reviews. Greatly appreciate all the support. If you'd like to follow me, you can on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of those places at My Bourbon Journey. If you'd like to support the channel, you can through my Patreon page, which I'll have linked in the description below. And in addition, that allows you to become part of the Mash and Journey Whiskey Club. So guys, thank you again. And remember, it's about the journey and not the destination. Cheers.